Shortly before his death, Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher Moses, gathers the entire Jewish people together. He says to them, Atem Nitzavim hayom kulchem. You're standing here today in front of me, in front of Hashem, all of you, and I'm going to bring you into a covenant. We are now making a covenant with Hashem. This is the covenant known as the covenant of Arvot Moav, the plains of Moab. There were several covenants made between Hashem and the Jewish people. We go back to the times of Abraham, the Brit Milah, the covenant over the land of Israel that was sealed with circumcision. There was Brit Torah. There was the covenant that was made when the Jewish people received the Torah at Mount Sinai. And now this is the final covenant that is being made with the Jewish people just before they're about to enter the land of Israel and just before the passing of Moshe. And what really are the terms of this covenant? It's quite simple. I'm your God. You'll serve me. If you serve me, I'll look after you. But there was another term of the covenant, and that is that all of you that are standing here today, all of you Jewish people, are responsible for one another. Kol Yisrael arevim ze bazeh. All of the Jewish people stand surety for one another. You are all responsible for one another. And this is a most interesting concept within the Jewish law. And this is spelt out, I think, best by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was one of the main students of Rabbi Akiva in the Midrash, explains it as follows. He says it's like people who are in a boat, in a ship. And suddenly, one of the passengers takes out an implement and starts making a hole in the bottom of the boat, right where he's sitting. Well, all of the passengers turn to him and say, "What are you doing? How can you do such a thing?" And he says, "What are you so worried about? I'm making a hole under my seat. I'm not doing anything to your seat. Your seats are still intact." But they say back to him, "Don't you realize, you fool? If you make a hole under your seat, it's going to affect all of us. We're all in the same boat together." Says Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, this is how it is for the Jewish people. We can't have the attitude, well, that Jew is not keeping mitzvot, and that Jew is becoming assimilated, and that Jew is not literate in terms of Jewish literacy. But I'm okay, thanks. It's all okay with me. No, that's not true. We're all in one boat. We're all sailing together. If you like, we're all one body. If you have pain in part of your body, it affects the rest of the body. And this is how it should be. So Moshe said to the Jewish people, you have to realize that although you are 12 tribes, you're a big nation, but each and every one of you is responsible for one another. At the very least, we should be responsible for those that are in our immediate surrounds, for our family, for our community, for perhaps the people that we associate with when we come to shul. We have a level of responsibility. And our attitude can never be, well, you know what, I'm growing in my spirituality, that person must do their own thing. No, we have to make great efforts to ensure that other people grow. And this principle of Kol Yisrael arevim ze bazeh, each Jew is responsible for one another, actually comes across very strongly in halakha, in Jewish law. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's Friday night. I'm sitting with my family. We're having the Friday night dinner. Before the Friday night dinner, I make kiddush. I take a cup of wine. I say Borei Pri Hagafen. I say the blessing where we sanctify Shabbat. I sit down with my family. We wash our hands. We are eating the meal. Suddenly there's a knock on the door. It's the next door neighbor. The next door neighbor comes and says, "Excuse me, Rabbi, but perhaps could you help? None of us at my house know how to say kiddush. And we would like there to be kiddush for our Friday night dinner. Could you come and perhaps say kiddush for us?" Well, I could turn to him and say, "Look, I'm very sorry. I've already said kiddush. I can't say it again because it would be a blessing in vain. So I'm very sorry, I can't help you." Says the halakha, absolutely not. Even though you have fulfilled your mitzvah, it's done, you are required to go next door and to help that person to fulfill their mitzvah. And you can say the bracha over again and over again and over again, as many times as is necessary for each person who requires that blessing to be said. Why? Because I'm responsible to see to it that you do a mitzvah. And if it means that I'm going to have to give up some time and effort and resources, this is exactly what I must do. The same thing applies, says the Talmud, when it comes to sin. When I see another person doing something that's incorrect, I mustn't take the attitude, look, I'm growing, he's sinning, he must do his own thing. No. make every effort to go over to the person, to rebuke them, of course, to do it in a kind way, and to tell them, look, what you're doing is wrong. Let me try and help you. Let me try and allow you to grow. There has to be this sense of responsibility. Arvut means that we're taking surety for one another. And says Moshe that a Jew who goes and does his own thing and says, I'm okay, it's as if an angel comes and says, this person has set aside himself from the community, and therefore when the community is going through good times, he will not be there to share those good times because he wasn't there for them in the bad times. This is the covenant that all of Israel accepted upon themselves in those days, and this is still, in fact, perhaps more applicable than it ever has been, that we live in a time of mass assimilation, ignorance of Judaism. Those of us who know a little bit are responsible to go out and to teach our brethren. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.